All right, we get to the last caller of the day.
Last caller of the night. This is Rob, who is an agnostic in New York. Rob, can you hear us?
Yeah, how can you hear me? I'm on a headset.
Yeah,
Good.
We can hear you just fine. What's up, man?
All right, great. Well, first of all, first, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it. I was worried I wasn't going to get on for a second, or for a while there. But I want to say to Tom, if you're still listening, I feel for you, man, and just best of luck there. So that said, yeah, I guess what I want to know is your thoughts on, well, actually, first let me ask if you want a fully secular society, but then, go ahead, if you could, would you want a fully secular?
Me or Matt or both of us? Or?
Both of us. I mean...
Yeah, I get what you mean.
It's a privilege to be talking to Matt at all. And,
unless a religion is established, is able to demonstrate that it's true, then my answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me actually give you a little bit of background, too. I was raised Jewish. I was in Hebrew school from about 6 or 7 till I had my bar mitzvah. Didn't do anything in the Jewish faith for a while. And then actually... I was thinking about this. I spoke to Talkeevan the other day. Forgot to mention, I went on a birthright trip with a couple friends. And one of the main things I took away was just how envious I was of, not of, their faith, but just their conviction. They're so sure of it. And it's like, man, I really wish I had it just as a coping mechanism. And I want to say, when I was learning, everything in Hebrew school, I never thought anybody took this stuff seriously. Like, I think it was Jesse before with the talking snake, or, Noah's Ark. I never took it seriously or literally. I always thought it was just more metaphorical, more, morality kind of stories and stuff. Yeah, I'm just wondering what your guys' thoughts are on if, say, I decide to run for office one day, and I, how do I say this? Well, okay, like I said, raised Jewish, but basically I'm secular. Even when I was being raised, it wasn't like, we're Reformed, so it was very, very lax. So if somebody's, has, again, religion as a coping mechanism for just the fact that, life ends, just for some of, the day-to-day struggles of life, just having that as a coping mechanism. But what, if it's not going to affect the decision-making, if it's not going to affect other people, what do you guys think of that as, again, I know I've keep repeating the phrase, but as a coping mechanism. This for me is meeting for group solidarity.
Yeah, this for me is real easy. First of all, beliefs don't live in a vacuum. So if you're convinced that something is true, and it's not, then you have some bad methodology, and there's no way that you can guarantee that that's not going to affect other decisions. The other thing is religion is a coping mechanism. If people aren't taking it literally and thinking they're getting a message from God, I'm far less concerned about that. But I would like for them to have coping mechanisms that are based on science and truth, as opposed to a religion. Because if the only thing that's making, if you're dealing with the fact that you've lost a loved one and thinking they're in heaven makes you feel better about it, well, I'm not going to complain too much. But I think we should do a better job across the board about teaching people that death is an inevitable part of life, and that gets people to treat people better while they're alive and helps them develop the coping mechanisms to deal with that loss without having to use a fairy tale to do so. Now,
yeah, I apologize for interrupting you. That's not really what I was going for, and I completely agree with you. We shouldn't be, relying on things like heaven. I just mean, if somebody has a really, let's say, because I honestly, I'm not really talking about myself. I don't actually pray. I haven't prayed in years at this point. I did used to sometimes. But if you have a hard day, you just have a hard day. And then just out of hope, just from stress, it's like, why is it a problem if you want to just pray to nobody. Just pray to, a God that's...
I put it in the same category. I put it in the same category.
I'm not saying that it's a belief. It's not like a belief for me.
I put it in the same category as somebody after a long day has a drink because that's their coping mechanism. I don't think either of them are particularly healthy, but if it doesn't actually become a problem, then it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I was just wondering, yeah.
I mean, so this is interesting because one of the things that when I was leaving the Christian faith, that I heard this argument a lot and said like, oh, people become atheists because they start to lose the Christian community. Like they're not involved much in the Christian community, which is interesting because that's telling me that, oh, it's part of the community itself that's keeping people in the faith in the first place, like having these friends and having these places to go and having these activities to do that are meaningful for people's lives. And who am I to say that I'm going to be against something that has something meaningful for people's lives? When it comes down to harming other people, though, I think that's where probably Matt would agree with me that it draws the line. I don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't care if my parents go to church on Sunday. I'm not going to stop them. Right? I mean, that's what they want to do. They have friends there. That's fine. If they're going to shun other people because of that, they're going to say, "Oh, you're a bad person because you don't go to church with me," or any kind of. I mean, you can imagine the examples. I think that's where the problem is, and I think it's pretty simple.
Another comparative thing is, I want religion to end. I would never, ever advocate for legislation that would force people to not be religious or not talk about their religion, not have those freedoms. I want people to give it up for good reasons. And the same thing's true if there's somebody who's drinking too much because they're stressful. I want them to give it up for good reasons as well. So I put them in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I just don't necessarily think that you can equivocate, just praying for a minute before you go to sleep and then having a drink. I mean, one is obviously, to me, one is obviously worse, especially if it is the drinking becomes
if that's your only drink for the day, there's
praying.
No. There's doctors that'll tell you that a single glass of wine a day is good for your health.
Yeah.
So
okay.
And Christians will say pray a day is good for your health too.
And one of them actually has science on their side, and the other one's just making shit up.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm not really even an advocate for prayer. I just wanted to know, just as a coping mechanism, because I really was. That was one thing I really took away. It's like, man, they seem, I guess, to be maybe just plain happier because they have these convictions, and it's just like, God, I'm envious of that a little bit. I have to say.
I'm not because I don't. I've seen people who seem happier, and I'm not convinced they are. And the prime example of that is Mormons. You're never going to meet friendlier, happier people than Mormons, but it's because their church drills it into them that that's the image they have to present to everybody else. Otherwise, they are harming the church.
Example.
Yeah, and
that's a great example.
There is a narrative, especially in Christian community, that's like, oh, the Holy Spirit is going to help you in great ways, and you're going to feel great, and God is with you and stuff. And if you aren't feeling happy, and if you aren't feeling the emotions that everyone else is feeling, that can compound your stress, and that compounds the negative emotions because it's like, oh, why does this person have it and I don't? I must be doing something wrong.
Exactly.
And that's bad because that gets you into just areas of thought where you don't want to be, and it's harmful. And I can say for myself, I was like that for a while. There was a point of time where I was just kind of faking being Christian a little bit because I wanted to appease other people, and I thought it was good for me to do these things, even if I wasn't believing. Maybe God would take pity on me because at least I'm doing the rituals and things like that, and that wasn't a healthy place for me to be. So, yeah. But I'm glad you brought it up, Rob, because it is something worth discussing, and
Absolutely.
I appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. Oh, man. A lot of calls tonight.
Cool.
Ooh, fun stuff. Well, is there anything coming up that you want to announce with your stuff, Matt? Or
man, I'm terrible at I do these events and everybody's like, what do you want? What do you got to promote?
Yeah.
Patreon.com/atheistdebates is where you can go to find my content. It's available to everybody for free. If you are able to contribute, great, because that allows me to do more of this and pay my mortgage and not end up homeless. American Atheist Convention is coming up in Cincinnati, Ohio over Easter weekend. And then the weekend after that is Faithless Forum in Dallas.
Yes. I will be there too. It's going to be fun.